This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
It's already Kedai, but I'm speaking to myself out loud a day before Yom Kippur, and I think that's what we're supposed to do. In fact, we learned this idea, this strategy from Yirmiyah Hanavi, because he turned to the people and he said, Nachpes dracheinu v'nachkora. Really, Yirmiyah? You have to do some introspection? He was supposed to say, Techapsu dracheichem v'tachkeru. You guys have to do some tshuva. But Yirmiyah said, listen, if you want people to listen to you, you have to include yourself as well. You say, Nachpes dracheinu v'nachkora. In the case of Yirmiyah, it was true. In my case, I'm talking to myself in this. But it was advertised, and we'll speak a little about Yona, and from there we'll expand in Mirz Hashem to matters of Inyane de Yoma. I just want to say, when I was driving here now, I just thought, what you guys are doing is mamish a Gemara meforeshes. Gemara Nida in Bavli, and in Yerushalmi, it's actually the last piece of the Gemara, and in fact the entire Shas. The Gemara discusses a woman, and the Gemara says, Charada mesalekes dami. When a woman is suddenly afraid something happened, she is startled, that can actually cause it to contract in different ways, and her body doesn't function in the way it normally we would expect it to on a monthly basis. Charada, fear, mesalekes damim, it removes blood. But I thought, damim has another meaning, and damim means money. Charada, me'eimas yoimadin, removes mesalekes, the desire for money. So I'm willing to stop whatever I'm doing, and I want to do what the Chayei Adam says. These days of the 10 Aseres Yemei Tshuva, we have to concentrate on Tshuva and not to work so much. That's the language of the Chayei Adam. Other points can bring it as well. So the fear, Charada, me'im asadin, mesalekes, it removes the need to concentrate and think about money and other worldly affairs that we're normally interested in. It's all about Tshuva. So before we dive into Tshuva, just a quick trivia riddle to have in your Shabbos table or on your Kippur table, because food you're not going to have on your Kippur table, so maybe you can offer some riddles to your household members. Yona went into the fish, right? He was swallowed up. When he left, he didn't leave with everything he came in. What did he lose or leave inside the fish? 2-point question, Rabbi say. Not everybody together, one by one. I can't hear when you're yelling at me. One by one, one by one. A siddur. That means Yona went in with a siddur, and that's a big chiddush. If you have a source, I'll accept it. Without a source, it's very hard to accept that. Can't hear you. How old are you? 13. You hear that? He's saying the truth. He's saying what the Medrash says in Medrash Tanchuma in Parashas Toldos in Siman Yud Beis. Because of the intense heat that was inside the fish, Yona lost his hair. Both his head, hair on the head, and his beard. He lost it and he left it there. So he came in with some hair, he left without it. You did so good in the previous riddle, you got 2 points. I'm going to ask you another riddle, and if you don't know the points, don't know the answer, I'm taking back those points. So be careful. You ready? How many leaves were on that kikayon that grew for Yona? Special miracle by Kodesh Baruch Hu, kikayon grows. Do you know how to say it in English? I saw different translations for it. Gourd. I saw different. That's why I'm using kikayon, because I'm not sure what to work with it in English. Rabbi say, how many leaves did that have? 1, 2. 2. Not such an impressive tree. No? Do you want to lose your points? Say something. 7. You're so close. Just add 268 and you got the answer. 275 leaves, and it was so gigantic that 4 people would be able to sit under it, and that just increases the size of the miracle in our eyes. And that is the language of Yalkut Shimoni in Yona, in Remez Taf, Kuf Nun Aleph. But why do we read Yona on Yom Kippur? I know it's short, but we have time. We're not going to feel like we're rushing home to eat. Why do we read Yona on Yom Kippur? I think you nailed it. Perek Aleph, Pasuk Vav. Vayikrav elav Rav HaChoyvel Vayomer Loi. And the captain of the ship comes close to Yona and he says to him, Malech HaMirdam, what's wrong with you? Why are you sleeping? Kum, Krai Elokecha. Get up. Kol HaKodesh Baruch Hu Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to show some mercy and we won't drown. I think that's the essence of the day. The last few minutes, and we yelled, you're still sleeping now, an hour to go. Maybe that's the reason, but I thought maybe a different reason. A positive spin. There's a Gemara in Yerushalmi in Tainis, Perek Beis, Halacha Aleph. I think it's a very encouraging Gemara. The Gemara discusses the people of Nineveh. And the Gemara says the people of Nineveh did a tshuva shel remius, a deceiving type of a tshuva. It wasn't a sincere one. It lasted 40 days. Sheesh, koyach, what type of a tshuva? It's not like they did tshuva and then they said after 40 days, you know what? I don't like it. From the get-go, they had a plan. We'll try to appease HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We'll fake it as if we're doing tshuva. A bluff type of a tshuva. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepted it. So first of all, you see how merciful HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. Maleh chesed. Maleh rachamim. He is willing to accept a tshuva of remius. What happens when we do a sincere tshuva? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I really, really mean it this time. How much more so he's going to get it? How much more so he's going to accept it? And therefore no one can think, yeah, maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu likes tshuva of tzaddikim, has nothing to do with me. Where I was this year, I sunk so low in the ocean of Averos, chas v'sholom. He's willing to accept a tshuva of remius. Last few minutes before the gate is closed, we read Yona. They tell us about the people of Nineveh. If they can do it, that type of tshuva, how much more so we can do it? We should be zoiche. So we're all supposed to be Baalei Tshuva. And sometimes you meet a person who says, where are you from? No, I'm a Baal Tshuva. As if it's something to be embarrassed about. It's the loftiest thing in Klal Yisrael and in the world entire. It's a Gemara that appears twice in Shas. Brachos Lamedalet Amud Beis and Sanhedrin Tzadi Tes Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, B'makom sheBaalei Tshuva oimdim, in a place where Baal Tshuva stands. Even tzaddikim gemurim don't stand. So it's so clear from the Gemara that a Baal Tshuva stands somewhere over there and a tzaddik gamur is only over there. Is that true? Is that true? Can it be that there's a guy, let's talk about the Gadol Ador. He's 85 years old. 85 years of intense relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. He's sitting and learning 25/7. He gets up 1 hour earlier. And he's just sitting and learning. Only eats badats. Paskins halacha to thousands of people. There's a guy who is 30 years old, did everything wrong until last week, becomes a Baal Tshuva, and he passes right through the Gadol and waves, Papa, you're staying behind. Is that possible? A Baal Tshuva, a recent one, comes, and he passes the Chazon Ish, and the Rambam and everything else. Everybody else says, you guys, you wasted so many years of your life. In the beginning, so you could have done what I did. Is that possible? Is it shaykh? B'makom sheBaalei Tshuva oimdim, really? They're greater than afilu tzaddikim gemurim cannot stand there? How is it possible? Tshuva me'ava transforms the averos into zchuyos. So you're saying, yes, you're okay with the idea that a 30-year-old that until now was involved in all the worst averos possible can pass all gedolei ador who are 100 years old and say, I'm better than you. Can it be?
Well, it happens to some of the people in the Nova Music Festival.
A special zchus we don't understand. First of all, that's also very hard to digest. Very hard to digest. And they sit in a very special chamber up there, in the 4th chamber out of the 7 chambers, as the Zohar says in Bereshis Daf Lamed Ches. But within that chamber, you must assume that there are different levels. And Rabbi Akiva is in the same chamber because he was also killed for being a Jew. But you understand that he's all the way there, and other people are a little lower.
So there's a Vera about Tshuva who has tasted, and he goes around it. That was.
You're speaking like the Rambam. You're speaking like the Rambam. So you're saying in essence that Baal Tshuva is greater than a tzaddik. That's what the Rambam says. And who says this is higher than? Who says? What you guys are doing now is voicing the Machlokes Rishonim about it, and many Achronim thereafter. It's not so pashut because it's hard to digest. How is it possible? So he's saying, it just says that, in the place a Baal Tshuva stands, which is here, a tzaddik gamur doesn't stand. You know why? Because he's here. Because he's here. Who says this is higher than the other? Who's talking about that? According to the Rambam, this doesn't work. According to the Zohar HaKodesh, it's clear that the Baal Tshuva stands in a higher place. The Rambam's language is exactly what you said. Their maila is greater than a tzaddik because they have tasted the sin and they separated from it, and that is very, very hard to do. But there's a question on the Rambam. The Arvei Nachal asks, and many others, who makes a statement? Who makes a statement? Rabbi Abau. Who's this Baal Plukta? Who's arguing with him in the Gemara? Rabbi Yochanan. Who's the Talmud? Who's the Rebbe? Rabbi Yochanan is the Rebbe. Rabbi Abau is his Talmud. We have a rule, Kaimalan. And we don't paskin when a Talmud is arguing with his Rebbe, unless you bring some support and other people into your coalition. We paskin like the Rebbe, not like the Talmud. But the Rambam paskins like Rabbi Abau that the loftiest level of Baal Tshuva is greater than that of the tzaddik, and that is a chiddush. So the Arvei Nachal explains that there are some tzaddikim who view themselves as a tzaddik because he really is. He knows that he's extremely careful about everything. He doesn't move without consulting the Shulchan Aruch. That in fact is the language of the Chazon Ish. I don't move without consulting with the Shulchan Aruch what he wants me to do. And that's a great level. But there's some tzaddikim who actually look at themselves in the mirror and say, I'm a tzaddik, not a gaiva. Because I try to be careful with the mitzvahs of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and not to transgress Chalil, the Averos. But there's other type of tzaddikim. A tzaddik who always looks at himself and says, who am I? Who am I? I gotta get better. I have to improve. And his whole life is basically one long process of tshuva. It's not comparing two different people, the Baal Tshuva and a tzaddik. It's a Baal Tshuva who's a tzaddik. In other words, a tzaddik who's a Baal Tshuva and a Baal Tshuva. A tzaddik who's also a Baal Tshuva is obviously much better than a Baal Tshuva. Givaldik. I think it works. Maybe in a different way. Many people promise the Kodesh Baruch Hu, I'm going to change. This year, this is finished. I'm becoming the real Baal Tshuva. Hashem Elokim. That's how we finish Yom Kippur. 5 minutes later, or 7 minutes later, he's back to who he was. Maybe it takes 2 weeks to go down from that inspiration, whatever it is. But a Baal Tshuva that promised HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm going to change, and he keeps it. He is obviously on a higher level. What's the language of the Gemara? B'makom sheba'alei tshuva omdim behavtachasam. They keep their promise. They're standing at the same place where they were when they promised, I'm going to change. And they're still there. They're not going down. Obviously, he's much greater than a tzaddik. But maybe in a different way. First of all, there's Kippur-Yona. And Kippur-Yona told us it has nothing to do with who's greater than who. And according to Kippur-Yona, it seems that the tzaddik is much greater than Baal Tshuva. Kippur-Yona just says, "B'makom sheba'alei tshuva oimdim." In other words, the workload that they have upon themselves to erect all kinds of fences around the avera that they know that they have sunk in is much greater than a tzaddik who doesn't have to worry about certain things. It's just a type of avera that they have is greater. Nothing to do with who is higher than who, which is a fantastic chiddush. The Kli Yakar and Sefer HaAkedah, Akedas Yitzhak, they both use Kippur-Yona and they explain. B'makom sheba'alei tshuva oimdim. You know where they stand? If the Baal Tshuva once fell into this specific sin, he doesn't get close. He stays right here. A tzaddik can pass by, it doesn't even bother him. B'makom sheba'alei tshuva oimdim. It's a totally different person, different tzaddik. Not saying who's higher than whom. It's a different path that they choose, which I think is very easy to understand with what the Baruch She'amar says. The Baruch She'amar is the Baal Torah Mima. And he explains. The Rambam says, everyone must always walk in the middle path. Shvil HaZahav, the golden path. Don't go crazy to the extremes. Except two midos, and those are Kas, don't ever get upset, go all the way to the extreme. And Gaiva, become very, very humble, like Moshe Rabbeinu. But everything else, choose the middle path. The same Rambam who says this instructs a Baal Tshuva. When you become Baal Tshuva, you got to go to the extreme. You were very stingy, be a spender. For a little while, until you get it back into your system, and then you go into the middle path. And with everything is like that. In order to change, you got to go to the extreme. B'makom sheba'alei tshuva oimdim. Where is that? In the extreme. Tzaddikim gemurim don't stand because they have to go in the middle path. No one talks about who is higher than whom. It's just a definition of where he walks and where he walks. The Geri Rebbe, in a different way. Everybody always walks with a string, a rope, depends how intense the relationship, connecting him to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a person goes off the derech, he basically severed that relationship and he cut that rope. But what happens when a person does tshuva? He ties a knot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want to be connected to you again. What happens when you have, let's say, the rope is, whatever, 3 meters. And now you cut it and you tie a knot. It's not 3 meters anymore. It's a little shorter. Oh, shebemakom b'malei tshuva oimdim. Tzaddikim gemurim don't stand because their rope is longer. The tzaddik never cut the rope. He doesn't have to stand in that place. Not that he's higher than him. Technically speaking, you will find the Baal Tshuva a little higher. Not because he's a greater tzaddik, because his rope is a little shorter. But maybe the best explanation is a pasuk we keep saying every single day from Rosh Chodesh Elul until Shmini Atzeres. We say LeDavid Hashem Oiri Ve'Yishid Perek Chav Zayin in Tehillim, and there we say Ki avivi imi azavuni. My parents abandoned me. VaHashem ya'asfeini. Hashem will gather me in. What does that mean? Many times a convert, a Baal Tshuva, feels in fact that he was deserted. His parents, his friends, looks at him. What's wrong with you? Look at you. You're frumed out. Whoosh. You're disgusted. He has no one to turn to. He feels literally abandoned. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, don't worry. VaHashem ya'asfeini. Come to me. I will gather you in. In other words, there's a special makom, a special place reserved for Baalei Tshuva. In that special place reserved only for Baalei Tshuva, because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu realizes he's like a Yasom, he's like an orphan. And the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is called Avi Yasomim, is the father of all orphans. He says, come to me. Come to me. I have a special place for you right here. You and me together. In that place where a Baal Tshuva stands, and that Baal Tshuva has to be every one of us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, even tzaddikim gemurim don't enter. Not that they're higher, we're not comparing anyone. We're saying it's a special place reserved for a Baal Tshuva because HaKadosh Baruch Hu realizes the difficulties, that feeling of abandonment that he may feel. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a special place for him. We keep saying in Slichos Leman Shimcha Hashem V'salachta la'avanenu. You know why? Ki rav hu. You know what that means? Literally, it makes no sense. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please forgive me. No, for your name. You know why? Because my sins are so gigantic. Ki rav hu. That makes no sense. L'chayah would make a little more sense if you come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, listen, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please forgive me. You know why? Because I regret what I did. Because I have a small sin. You can do it. But you're saying no. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know what you should forgive me? Because my sins are gigantic. You owe money to a friend. And you go to him and say, listen, can you be moichel me, please, the 42 shekels that I owe you? If you're nice and you smile, he may forgive you. But is it shaykh to say, can you be moichel me because I owe you 150,000 shekels? How would I be moichel you? So start paying me in installments. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please forgive me. You know why? Ki rav hu. Because I have a gigantic sin and it's based on a pasuk in Tehillim. How does that work? Comes the Ibn Ezra, the great Chiddush, the Ibn Ezra on that pasuk in Tehillim. And that's Tehillim Chaf Hei, pasuk Yud Aleph. And says the Ibn Ezra, you don't understand the word ki. Ki here doesn't serve as because, it's even though. Leman shimcha, because your great name, v'salachta, forgive me. You know why? Ki, because, I'm sorry. Ki, even though, Ravu, even though my sins are gigantic. So that works very well. But we have more interpretations. In the name of the Arizal, and he says, Ki Ravhu, doesn't talk about my sins. Talks about the master called Yetzer Hara. Please forgive me, because I'm dealing with this man that you planted in me. Ki Yetzer Lev Adam Rami Neurav. You planted this thing in me called Yetzer Hara from the get-go. Because he is so great at what he does, so great, that for 5,785 years and a week, he didn't go to sleep, didn't take a day off, no personal days, no vacation, no, unbelievable. He's relentless. because he is so great, that's why sometimes I stumble. So Kodesh Baruch Hu, please forgive me. Comes the Maharal, and he says, Ki Ravhu, because he is great, he is very big, doesn't refer to the Yetzer Hara and doesn't refer to my Averos. Refers to Kodesh Baruch Hu. The first part of the pasuk says, Leman Shimcha Hashem, for your great name, please forgive me. You know why? Because your name, Ki Ravhu, is so great, and therefore please forgive me. Comes Rebunim B'Pshisra in a very Rebunim B'Pshisra type of vote, and he says in a different way. Yuma Samech Daled Amud Aleph, there's a machloikis. When you want to bring a korban, and that korban has a blemish, a passing blemish. As long as it has the blemish, you can bring it as a korban. But what happens when it's healed? Can you now bring it as a korban? Is there dichui by korbanos or not? Is there dichui by a balei chaim? Animals who were disqualified. Does that disqualification stays even though the animal is healed or not? Machlokes in the Gemara. We paskin like Rav. Rav says an animal that was healed is now restored and it can be brought as a korban. Says the Bnei B'Pshischa. You know what we're saying here? When you bring a korban, you're supposed to be thinking about yourself. That's supposed to be me on that mizbeach. Korban is from the root of karov. Closeness to Kodesh Baruch Hu is supposed to be me. Leman Shimcha Hashem, for your great name, Kodesh Baruch Hu, v'salachta. Please forgive me. You know why? Ki Ravu, because the halacha is like Rav. That yes, I had disqualifications. I have all kinds of blemishes, but now I'm doing tshuva. I'm removing those disqualifications. So therefore, Kodesh Baruch Hu, please forgive me. Gewaltig. If there was a mitzvah that you have to choose, to concentrate on, before Yom Adin HaGodol V'Anoya, what should it be? You got 6, 7, 13 to choose from, and thousands of the Rabbanons. What should we recommend a person who comes and asks, listen, what should I concentrate on? Tshuva, obviously, without it doesn't start. I'm doing tshuva. I want to put a real heavy, big one on the scales to tilt the scales in my favor. What should I do? Talmud Torah keneged kulam. If that's the case, and you're right, Talmud Torah keneged kulam, I said it this morning, I said it yesterday, it's Hashem, I'm going to say it tomorrow again. If that's the case, how come you say in davening, Utshuva tefillah tzedakah ma'avir netorah gezerah, and for some reason you didn't include Talmud Torah? So what should we recommend? Which mitzvah? Can mamish tilt the scales? Not everybody together? You're afraid to lose your points than before, I know. What's that? Somebody said tzedakah? Why tzedakah? Why not? Is one way to explain. What's that? I'll tell you now why you're right in a way that will blow you away. Pilei ploi. And if it wasn't Torah of Rishonim, I don't think we would be allowed to say what I'm about to say now. Not allowed to say it. There's a sefer called Leket Yosher. Leket Yosher is the Torah of the Trumas Hadeshen. He was a Talmid of the Trumas Hadeshen. It's interesting why he decided to write the Leket Yosher. He once came to a place for Shabbos, and everybody knew the Leket Yosher is the Talmid of the Trumas Hadeshen. They asked him, say something in the name of your Rebbe, the Trumas Hadeshen, one of the great Rishonim. And he says, you caught me off guard. I didn't prepare anything. He said, what do you mean? You didn't write anything? You don't write? No, never wrote anything. And then he realized the big mistake. You're with an Adam Gadol and you don't write everything that happens there. From that Motzi Shabbos, when he came back home, he didn't stop writing. And he's writing when the Rebbe sneezes, and he's writing when the Rebbe is cough. Whatever the Tumas Hadeshen does, in all his minhagim, he's writing that. And that's why we have the Leket Yosher. And in the Leket Yosher, he brings a fascinating thing that the Tumas Hadeshen said once on Shabbos Shuva. His drasha of Shabbos Shuva was the following. There's a pasuk in Mishlei, Perek Yutes pasuk Yud Zayin. Malve Hashem choinen dal. When you give money to the ani, you're a lender to Ribbon Shloim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made him poor. What does that have to do with me? Let HaKadosh Baruch Hu take care of him. Says Loma Melech Lo. You're supposed to give it, but don't worry. When you give money to the ani, you just now lent money to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is your borrower, and you are the lender. Good. Masachet Sanhedrin Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis. We learn when there is a little dispute between the borrower and the lender, they need to go to Beis Din. The borrower says, come to my Beis Din. I don't want to go to your Beis Din. The Malve says, no, I want to go to my Beis Din. Whom do we listen to? Malve, koifin and saloive, we force the borrower to go after the Malve. Because we don't want to lock the door for Malvim. Because if we listen to the borrower, from now on people will say, you know what, I don't want to lend money anymore. Nobody listens to me. They take me to his Beis Din. I'm not interested. It's going to lock the door for all future lenders. Comes out from here that the borrower has to listen to the lender, because Shlomo Melech wrote another pasuk. Eved loive leish malve. The borrower is like a slave to the lender. I said we wouldn't be allowed to say this if Rishonim didn't say this. Tumas edition says HaKadosh Baruch Hu is now considered your slave, and therefore you can force him that you want to take him to your Beis Din, and that is your favorite Beis Din Hagodol of Midas Harachamim. And therefore Tumas edition says, make sure before Yom Kippur to give a lot of tzedakah, because you are a lender to Kodesh Baruch Hu. He is your borrower. He becomes your slave, and he is forced to go after you to the Beis Din you choose, and you choose Beis Din of Midas HaRachamim. If that's what you meant, right? That's what you said, tzedakah.
Today on, yes.
What's the easiest mitzvah to perform? We said before, 6:13. Easiest mitzvah to perform. You got a reaction? What's that? Shiluach HaKen. How do you do it? I just did a mitzvah. Not so easy to perform. I want to do Shiluach HaKen right now. Can I do it? No. There's no ken here. No birds. And let's say a person does have a ken. He's bedridden. How can he do this? It's not going to help him. Not so available and not so easy. When you happen to have it and you're able to do it, it could be pretty easy, but not always is it available. Comes Maran Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal and says, from the 6:13 that we have, the easiest mitzvah to perform is tshuva. Tshuva, we thought it's a big process, it's very hard. Says Reb Chaim, it's the easiest thing in the world, I'll prove it to you. Kiddushin Mentes Amud Beis, the Gemara says, one comes to a lady and says, I'd like you to be my wife. Al menas, he makes a condition. She'ani tzadik gamur, I'm complete righteous individual. Then, so Yom Kippur, that falls on Shabbos, and we see him driving on Yom Kippur, that falls on Shabbos, while eating shrimp on his way to the beach, listening to the music the whole time. So we said, you made a condition. Obviously she's not mekudeshes. Says the Gemara, mekudeshes. The Rishonim bring, she's only safet mekudeshes. But the Meiri writes, and the Beis Shmuel brings him la halacha, that if the guy says, no, but really, I meant it. I actually did have sincere thoughts of tshuva, she is mekudeshes vaday, and she needs to get, not because she's suffik, she is really mekudeshes. Now wait a second. The language of the Gemara there is that afterwards we found him to be a rasha gamur, and he said, al menat shani tzadik, in some versions having the Gemara tzadik gamur, she is mekudeshes. For what? What exactly did he do? He had a thought of tshuva. For a thought of tshuva, you can even be bedridden, and you don't need any birds flying around. It must be that the mitzvah of tshuva is the easiest in the world to perform, because all you need is a hirhu tshuva, a thought of tshuva, which will elevate you to a tzaddik gamur. And of course, the different levels of tzaddikim and different levels of baalei tshuva and thoughts of tshuva and how intense it is and what you do with it afterwards. But you see that the mitzvah of tshuva has to be the easiest in the world.
Who said this?
Maran Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal, Rabbi. So in order to become baalei tshuva, we must accept on ourselves good kabbalos toivos. And when one does, he must stick to it at all cost. At all cost. What does that mean, to stick to a Kabbalah with all your might, no matter what? The Pnei Menachem, later to be the Ger Rebbe, the son of the Imrei Emes, the Ger Rebbe, once accepted on himself a new Kabbalah. You know what? I'm not going to speak after my bedtime Shema. I'm going to speak. Not after Hamapil, after the Bracha. Because Al Pidin, you're not allowed to speak there. After bedtime Shema, I'm not speaking. Very nice. Good Kabbalah. So one day he said his bedtime Shema, and he went to sleep, but his father called him. I have a Kibbud Avayim Mitzvah Deoraisa, heavyweight. I have a Kabbalah, very nice Kabbalah, but it's only a Kabbalah. Kibbud Avayim Deoraisa. But when you accept on yourself something, you must stick to it at all cost. So he started thinking, what am I doing? He decided, I'm going to go to my father, Kibbud Av. But I'm not going to initiate a conversation. If my father asks me anything, I'm going to have to respond. But I'm not going to initiate the conversation. He goes to his father. And his father asked him a question. He had to answer. You know what he did? He decided, I'm not going to sleep that night. He stayed up the whole night. I accepted on myself that I'm not going to speak after a bedtime Shema. This wasn't a bedtime Shema. I said Shema in the middle of the night. I'm not allowed to say Shema. Am I not allowed to say Shema whenever I feel like it? Shema Yisrael, what's the problem? It comes out it was never a bedtime Shema, so I'm allowed to speak. Reb Shimshon Pincus once accepted on himself, I'm never going to bench by heart. And that's a great Kabbalah for one to take upon himself. Because Sefer Chinuch and Mitzvah Taf Lamed 430 says, I have a Kabbalah from my Rebbes. This is a Rishon, Sefer Chinuch. It says, I have a Kabbalah from my Rebbes that anyone who is careful with benching, to articulate, to bench with Kavana, will never lack Parnasa b'chavod. That's the language of Sefer Chinuch. It's a great Kabbalah. But once he was in a Sheva Brachos, in a room where there is no benchers, and there's no Sidurim, and there's nothing around. Now again, I have a problem. The Torah commands me in Parashas Ekev, ve'achalta ve'savata, and also uverachta. Mitzvah deoraisa to bench. I have a Kabbalah. I'm not going to read it by heart. I'm not going to say it by heart. Shkoyach for your Kabbalah. But you have a deoraisa that forces you to bench. But when you have a Kabbalah, you stick to it at all costs. You know what he did? Reb Shimshon Pincus, don't worry. He knows benching by heart like we all do. He took a piece of paper, he took a pen, and he wrote the whole benching. Now I can read. I can stick to my Kabbalah, and I can also do the deoraisa benching. A bunch of years ago, there was a fight between two Arab groups close to Haifa. Young guys, one of the groups had one hand grenade. And one of the guys threw it at the other group, and it fell very close to the 17-year-old Arab by the name of Yusuf. We would call him maybe Yossi, Yossale, Joey, Joe, he's a Yusuf. He was rushed to the Rambam hospital, and the doctors looked at him, only one eitzah. You gotta amputate his legs and his arms and take out his eyes. There's so much shrapnel, so much. There wasn't shaykh to keep it because it's definitely going to cause infection and he's going to lose his life. But there was one doctor there, a Jewish doctor, his name is Dr. Shlomo Paz, and he says, I don't think it's right. It's a 17-year-old guy. You're sending him back home like a little square box. Where's the Rachamim? A 17-year-old. So they say to him, well, what do you think? What can we do? He says, I think with patience, we can take out piece by piece. I think it can be done. They said, we don't think it can be done. And he said, you know what, I'm going to take it on myself. And he did. The next 3 months he dedicated to treat this patient. Day and night. With unbelievable patience. He pulled out one piece after the other. Treatments, ointments. Such care. Mamish unbelievable. And after 3 months, finally the great day arrived. Yusuf is walking on his own two legs, using his own two arms, and is able to see. The following day, Yusuf comes to Dr. Paz, the gigantic gift. Doctor, this is for you. Dr. Paz says, what are you talking about? Yusuf, you're my greatest gift. I don't know, gift for you. Look, you're walking on your own two legs. You're using your arms. You can see. I don't need a gift from you. No, doctor, what you did for me, here's a gift for you. You start arguing. Ad kan Akofe Aleph. Akofe Beis. A few months later, 6 months later, the Intifada broke out. Dr. Shlomo Paz serves as a doctor in reserves. One day he is called, there's two injured Jewish fellows, they're on the ground, go help them, and he does. He's on the ground, he's helping them, and while he's helping them, an Arab comes over with a gigantic rock in his hands. And he's getting closer and closer and closer to Dr. Paz, and Dr. Paz looks, Yusuf, it's me! Dr. Paz from Rambam, I took care of you 6 months ago, remember I restored you right? And Yusuf says, oh yeah, Dr. Paz, yeah, how you doing? I'm so sorry, I apologize, but things are different now, it's the Intifada now, I'm so sorry. And while he's saying, I'm so sorry, he took that gigantic rock and smashed Dr. Paz's head. Now Dr. Paz was rushed to the Rambam hospital, and he was there for months. In rehab, surgery after surgery, all kinds of treatments. Pain and torture you cannot imagine. And one day his family comes in to visit him, and he says, I want to tell you something. The pain that I endure is above and beyond. It's unbelievable. The surgeries, the treatments, it's so difficult. But you should know there is one thought that haunts me. And when that thought enters my mind, it is too great to bear, and I'd rather die than deal with it, and it's worse than all the pain and torture. And that thought is, those legs that I gave Yusuf to use, those arms that I enable him to use once again, the eyes with which I let him see, that he took and used against me? It's too hard to bear, and I'd rather die when I think about that. And I think that we all think about this Yusuf, and we say, wicked, traitor, cruel. We would never do such a thing. Chas v'shalom. He comes Reb Moshe Cordovero the Remak. And he says, really? 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 That's how you're looking at Yusuf? Ribono Shel Olam gave us a mouth. And this morning when we woke up, he said, listen, I'm giving you 1,440 minutes to use it. 86,400 seconds. Here, go crazy. And do me a favor. Use it only for good things. Praise me and others. Daven. Learn my Torah. It's very sweet. You'll enjoy it. You'll love it. I'm telling you. Try to refrain from Lashon Hara, even from dust of Lashon Hara. Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us arms and legs and everything else. And if we take and misuse it, not according to Kodesh Baruch Hu's directives, how are we so different than Yusuf? On the other hand, when we do listen to the instructions, how much nachas is there in front of Ribono Shel Olam? Look, my kinderlachers are using the body parts that I gave him exactly the way I was thinking about. How much nachas? We all know the Maaseh with Elisha ben Avuya. We don't use that name. We call him Acher, the other. Chagiga Daf Tesvav Amud Aleph in Bavli, in Yerushalmi, say Maaseh with a little more elaborate, more details in Chagiga in Yerushalmi in Perek Beis Aloch Aleph. Elisha ben Avuya heard a baskol saying, everybody can do tshuva, not you. Get out. So what's the taina against him? He really heard a baskol from Shemayim. That's a Kodesh Baruch Hu's heavenly voice that comes and emanates and says, oh, everybody can do it. You're not invited. See, what do you want from him? There's many interpretations. But Rebbe Yoshiv Zatzal said, how is it possible to hear such a voice? How is it possible? HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want people to do tshuva? Impossible. You know why Elisha ben Avuya heard that voice? Because he stepped out of Beis HaMikdash. When you step out of Beis HaMikdash, you're going to hear all kinds of crazy voices. If you stay inside, you're going to hear the sound of the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, Rabbeinu Yonah and Shari Tshuva saying, everybody can do tshuva. As soon as you leave the Beis HaMikdash, what do you expect? You can hear all kinds of shigana sounds. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want tshuva. Can it be? Can it be? The problem is that he left the Beis HaMikdash, and then he can hear all kinds of strange voices. Rabbi Yisrael Salanta said, you know, if I'm going to go upstairs after 120, and they tell me, you know, we always give last request, one final request. What would you ask? Rabbi Yisrael Salanta said, if they would tell me one thing, you know what I would ask for? Let me go down for one more Yom Kippur. It's the greatest gift in the world. We're allowing Daddy to take us to the shower, like it was when you were little. People approach Yom Kippur with such fear. I'm not talking about trepidation. It has to be there. It has to be there. Emas Adin. But fear, and I wish we didn't have Yom Kippur. I'm going to go through it. Shulchan Aruch, from Tafresh Dalet till Tafresh Chav Dalet says you got to go through it. Fine, I'm from. Shulchan Aruch says. I wish there was no Yom Kippur. It's such a strange thought. Last week, I told you a secret I'm not sure I should share, but it happened to meet Eliyahu Hanovi just last week. And he told me that if I pay a certain sum, a very large sum, he can actually get me a ticket to a very exclusive club. That if I buy this ticket, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be moichel all my avoinus. And he said, yeah, you can bring 5 guys. Are you interested? It's going to cost a lot of money, but it's worth it. I said, are you kidding me? Of course I'm in. Eliyahu Hanovi promises. But when HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself promises, I'm going to atone for all your sins every year and for free, how are we not excited? It's the happiest day of the year. Why do we have trepidation? V'gilu berada. Rejoice. Well, understanding the significance of the day. But it is the happiest day of the year. How happy do we have to be? In the slichas that we said for Tzom Gedalia last week, listen to a beautiful language the Piyut describes what Tshuva is all about. Retias banim shoivevim. What is retia? It's a band-aid. You're wounded, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, come, I'll take care of you. And he puts a little band-aid with some ointment to smear over you. Me'utedet lekibus tzoim is designated and intended to launder all your dirty clothes. Ulehalbish, and to dress you up with mutavim, with beautiful, elegant clothes. By whom? Ribono Shel Olam himself. But can I also be invited? Maybe it's only about tzaddikim. So Chazal darshaned, you all know this drasha. Dirshu Hashem be'imatzo. Kra'uhu v'yoyso karov sika kodesh baruch hu, when he is near. That is talking about these 10 days. And Chazal say a mashal. Mashal to a king who is walking in the field is now much more accessible. Normally, you have to go into the inner chamber. You have protection. You need to have connections. But now he's very accessible. Now, wait a second. What is this mashal doing? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in the field. I'm aware where he is normally found in a different place. Brachos Daf Ches Amud Aleph, we learned that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is found in Beis HaMikdash. He loves halacha. In Daled Amos Shel Halacha, that is where he's found. So a person can't say, I didn't learn enough this year. I'm not a Talmid Chochem. It's not for me. You see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is willing to leave Beis HaMikdash to meet everyone outside. In fact, he comes in for Talmid Chochem is harder. Talmid Chochem has to leave the Beis HaMikdash to run after HaKadosh Baruch Hu who is outside. That's how accessible he is. That's how he desires us to do tshuva. Fine. But maybe I sunk so low in the ocean of Averos that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to be willing to forgive me. I think, proven from the words of the Rambam, this cannot be so. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, in Perek Beis Halacha Yud, says that when one comes to you and asks your forgiveness, are you supposed to forgive? Shavadeh. What's the language of the Rambam? Don't be achzari. Don't be cruel and say, no, I don't forgive you. You know what? I'll think about it. Come back in 2 weeks. Don't be achzari. Don't be cruel. We have to walk in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's ways. The same Rambam, in his count of the 613 mitzvahs, in his positive count, the mitzvahs essay, the 8th mitzvah he counts is ve'halachta bidrachav emulate ribono shel olam, copy him, walk in his ways. So it can't be that we are expected to moichel our friends, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to be moichel us, because if he is not moichel, I have to emulate him. That means I also don't have to moichel when you ask me forgiveness. It can't be that he is cruel, because they're telling me not to be cruel, and I have to emulate him. So by definition, if I am moichel, it means, if I'm commanded to be moichel, it means that he is moichel as well, and that's why I have to emulate him. More than that. In Yerushalmi, in many places in Drashim, we find that HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps his entire Torah. The Rambam tells us what the Torah is all about, and if the Torah commands you to forgive, by definition, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps his own Torah, he forgives as well. I found 2 days ago a Metzia. Mamish, I couldn't believe it. Targum Yonasan and Targum Yerushalmi both interpret a certain pasuk, Parshas Emor, Perek Chav Gimel, pasuk Leiv. That's the heart of the matter, Lamed Beis. The pasuk describes what Yom Kippur is all about. I'm reading to you the pasuk. The pasuk says, Shabbos, Shabboson, Hi, Lachem. So Shabbos. V'nisem es nafsho Yisraechem. Afflict yourself. B'tisha l'chodesh ba'erev. From the evening of the 9th. Me'erev ad erev, tishbesu, Shabbatchem. 24 hours, I want you to fast. That's what it says. Targum Yonasan agrees. Targum Yerushalmi agrees. But they add 4 words at the end. Not to be found in the pasuk that I just read. They translate word for word, but then they decide, both of them, to write Ve'avdin zimnin moyadechen bechedva. And do this festive day with joy in your heart. Chedva. Where did they say that here? It doesn't say that here. It's so basic, so clear, so fundamental. That's what we said before. It's the happiest day of the year. How can it be that you're not approaching this Yom Tov with the greatest simcha in your heart? And now we have a base of, now we have we have Targum Yerushalmi and Targum Yonasan. It's a very strong coalition. And more than that, I think most of us, at least I did for many years, I always thought that after Rosh Hashanah, the judgment intensifies and it just gets worse and worse. It's much more strict, much stricter, much. I found the Zohar exactly the opposite. Listen to the Zohar Kodesh in Vayishlach. Daf Kuf Ayin Daled Amud Aleph. I'm reading to you the language of the Zohar. Tachazi. Come and see. Kol Sherusa Takif. Ulebasar Naicha. Berosh Hashanah Sherusa Takif. De Kol Alma Isadan Kol Chad V'Chad Lefum Ovdoi. The beginning, says the Zohar, every beginning is hard. That's how you have a language. Kol Aschalos Kashos. The beginning is always hard. But that's only the beginning. Rosh Hashanah is very difficult because everybody is judged based on his deeds, whatever he did the past year. Continues the Zohar and says, Ule basar naicha, and after this beginning, slicha v'kapure, says the Zohar, and after this Rosh Hashanah, thereafter, it's all about forgiveness, and that refers to Yom Kippur. Which means when Chazal say, Kol ha'atchalos kashos, all beginnings are hard, they mean just the atchala. The first 5 minutes, the first day or 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. Then, easy sailing. It's all about wanting us close and all about our atonement. And again, I think it's the greatest reason to be so happy. Motzei Yom Kippur. 18. You daven and you daven. Slach lanu! What's slach lanu? What's slach lanu? For what? I'm still in Shul. I didn't have a chance to do anything. Famous Shaila. Many answers. But the Chidush HaYarim's answer is the best. You know what the greatest sin that one can be involved in? Technically speaking, you don't have any sins. Yom Kippur just finished. HaKadosh Baruch Hu cleaned it all out. So what sins? The greatest sin is not to believe in the power of Yom Kippur to atone for your sins. And for that you say after HaKadosh Baruch Hu slach lanu. Because I was doubting. Maybe my averus is too big. There's no such thing. And one more thought. Rabbi Yankele Galinsky was in Siberia. And he said that one Yom Kippur, all the Jews were davening and they were crying their heart out. Oh, they're crying. There was a goy in the camp as well, Polish. And he saw that he's also crying. So Rabbi Yankele Galinsky goes over to him and he says, I know why I'm crying. Why are you crying? And this guy says to him, I envy you so much. You can start anew. Then there is one day you can just open a new page. I envy that so much. And that's why this day is the happiest day of the year. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu allows us, demands that we open a new page along with Him. He helps us. And when you're approaching a 25-hour basically of davening, it can be very intense and it can be a little tiring. But if you think about it, if it was up to us, I think we would recommend to people, oh, you have a Yom Kippur to catch? Go open up a tractate, whatever it is that you like, a Rambam, Shulchan Aruch, and don't stop learning, because you said before, Talmud Torah, keneged kulam, it's a mitzvah d'oraisa. Davening is a mitzvah d'rabbanon. Why are they instructing us to put everything that we have into davening? It doesn't make sense. They should have told us, in Yom Kippur, 25 hours. You can sleep a few hours, but any free time that you have, just sit and learn. Don't take your eyes off the Sefer. And instead they're saying, no, engage in the mitzvah d'rabbanon called davening. You see from here the mile of davening. When I'm learning, and maybe that answers what we said before, why is it only tshuva, tefillah, tzedakah, and Torah is not there on the list? When I'm learning, Talmud Torah keneged kulam, but who says I got the sugya right? When I'm learning, my mind can be in a million different places. What kind of Talmud Torah is that? But when you're davening, and you're turning to a Kodesh Baruch Hu and says, Abba, my dear Father, I made some mistakes. I realize those mistakes. I regret. Please accept me. Is there any sane father who will say, no, get out of here? A kid that embarrassed his father and upset him for years, and he left. Father was so upset with him. After 5 years, he misses his kid. And when the kid finally comes back knocking on the door, whether it's after 5 years or 20 years, is there any normal father that says, you? Get out of here! Don't want to see you ever again. A father and a mother hug their kid. Kisses. They come. Let's sit in the kitchen and eat something. There'll be plenty of time to discuss what you did later. But I just want to be with you. I just want to hug you. That's what Yom Kippur is all about. And it's not a recommendation. It's a demand from Ribono Shel Olam. I want to get that intense relationship with you. Just like it was. Remember, in the womb when I used to teach you Torah through my malach. I want to have that bond. The greatest day of the year. The happiest day of the year. In the midst of Hashem, with all the fire that we have through davening of 25 hours. We'll in fact be able to attain what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. To reclaim that lofty title. Avdei Hashem. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at us and says, this is my nation that I'm so proud of. Asher B'cha Yispar, that I'm proud of you and each and every one of us. Amen. Hashem. Gmar Chasim HaTov HaTorah.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.